prioritization, it's got to be vaccines.
There's no technology known to man now that is faster than mRNA.
Because of this monopoly or duopoly position that the sellers are in, they tend to have a high amount of market power and ability to get higher price.
Vaccines save 2 to 3 billion lives every year, but bringing them to market involves huge investments, complex science and secretive contracts. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, few people paid attention to the business models behind vaccines. The global pharmaceutical market was worth $1.3 trillion in 2019. Vaccines made up just 3% of that, generating around $33 billion of revenue, that compared to $142 billion from cancer drugs. So how do the economics of vaccines work? Who funds them? How profitable are they? And will the COVID-19 pandemic and new technology disrupt the vaccine market forever? Until recently there have been only 4 major players in the vaccine market: GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, Pfizer and Sanofi. They represented 90% of vaccine industry revenues in 2019. Even for these market leaders, developing a vaccine is a costly and time-consuming gamble. The process often takes a decade. The cost of creating vaccines varies widely. On average, it ranges from several hundred million to a few $1 billion. Supply, demand and pricing for vaccines are determined on a small number of factors.
On the buyer's side, national governments and organizations like Gavi,
the Vaccine Alliance and UNICEF are among the biggest purchasers. On the seller's side are the pharma companies. Because the development barriers for the regulatory vaccines are high, companies can maintain their monopoly for longer.
It is more expensive to make a vaccine in the US and Europe. Traditionally, those companies haven't had large facilities because the volumes that they sell at are much lower, but at a very high price.
By prioritizing high volumes at low prices, Serum Institute of India has become the world's largest vaccine manufacturer by volume. It produces more than 1.5 billion doses of vaccines every year, which are used in 170 countries. Until now, the fastest vaccines ever created was a mumps vaccine developed by Merck in 4 years. The pandemic demanded an urgent response, but that also led to questions about the prices of the COVID-19 vaccines. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is about $3 to $4 per dose. Along with Johnson & Johnson, they have committed to selling their vaccine on a non-profit basis during the pandemic. Moderna has changed the US government so little as $16.50 per dose to return some money to taxpayers. But smaller orders for other customers range from $32 to $37 per dose. Before the pandemic, the pharma companies were under pressure for high prices of drugs. The industry looked ripe for reform. In previous pandemics, including SARS, the outbreak ended before companies could develop a vaccine. Those who invested in the endeavor made a loss. But COVID-19 is widely expected to become endemic. Analysts predict COVID-19 vaccine market will reach $10 billion this year. For government of low and middle income countries, the return on investment is entirely different. COVID-19 has turbocharged normal market forces, from funding, to the speed at which vaccines were developed, and the subsequent international scramble to buy them.
Traditionally, when governments have tried to invest in that infrastructure, it's not worked out very well. It's always been the private players in the private sector that's been able to succeed, scale up, because of the entrepreneurship and freedom that a private sector company would have.
Conclusion: the ongoing pandemic has propelled the vaccine market into becoming a much bigger part of the global pharmaceutical market. The vaccine supply has been seen as a huge global strategic priority. COVID-19 has already changed the vaccine